Hello everybody, this is Tyler from Canine Connection Dog Training, and today we're going to talk about a training tool called the Prong collar. Many of you may be familiar with the Prong collar. It looks a little bit like this. You've probably seen them at pet stores before. And of course it looks like sort of a barbaric torture device. And today we're going to be talking about and showing how to use a prong collar in a way that is as humane and as gentle as can possibly be. Now, I'm fully aware that there's many people out there who completely disagree with using a tool such like this, or who feel that it is wrong or that it is mean. And I firmly believe that everybody has to use their own judgment and their own conscience as far as what they are or are not comfortable using as a training tool. Here at our training center, we do find at times that the prong collar can be a very useful tool to help somebody gain the control that they need over their dog, especially if it's a difficult or challenging dog. And I do find that it is one of the safer tools that we can possibly use. So one of the things that I like to first mention about the prong collar is that although it looks kind of rough, this is actually, in my opinion, one of the safest collars that we can put on a dog for a number of reasons. And one of the first things we're going to talk about because of that is the way the prong collar needs to fit. If you do not fit it properly, you lose some of the safety features that the prong collar offers. And let me show you what I mean by that. The prong collar is actually designed to protect your dog's trachea. So the prong collar is designed to actually distribute any physical pressure from the leash away from the front of the neck and push it all the way around the muscle tissue so that you don't have all that pressure going on the trachea and the larynx. So let's say that this is just a regular flat nylon collar, okay? And if this were on the dog and I were to pull backwards on the dog, or the dog is just walking and pulling forward, what you'll always notice is that there's this open space where the leash is attached to the collar. And what that tells me is that the majority of my force or pressure is right on the front of the dog's neck. Okay? And that's where the trachea and larynx are, and that's where we can do some damage. That to me is no good. Now the prong collar, in opposition to that, when fit properly, and the fit is very important here, as I said, it needs to be nice and snug. Because what then happens, okay, this is a little tiny micro prong, is if I pull, you'll notice I have contact all the way around. Okay, there's no point of my arm or the dog's neck, as it may be, where there is no contact. What that's doing is distributing that pressure all the way around the surface of the dog's neck. Now we have one more added safety component here, which is just that the prong collar uses a sort of biting action that some people say is designed to simulate when an older dog would bite as a correction to the younger dog. Because of that biting action, whether or not you agree that it is acceptable, it's going to take much less force on the actual leash to get the same effect on the dog, which means we're not going to have as much pressure on the dog's neck. So even if it wasn't distributing all the way around, you still would have a reduced risk of doing any damage to the trachea or larynx. So that's one of the key safety features, and that's why it's so important to fit the prong collar properly. That's probably the biggest thing we see here when people come in and they already have a tool like this on the dog, is almost always they're fit way too loose. People have them hanging down almost like a necklace. And the prong collar should be fit up high, right behind the ears and the jawline. That's the weakest part of the dog's neck, so it's going to take the least amount of force to get the same result. We don't want it to fit way down here at the base of the dog's neck. The dog has a lot of strength to pull from there. It also doesn't give you control over the dog's head. If you control the dog's head, you really control the rest of their body. Whereas when the collar is down here, the dog can move their head wherever they want to, regardless of what you're doing on the collar. So it's really important that the collar fits nice and snug up high on the neck. Because of that, I always choose to go with a smaller size link, unless I have to add too many of them. But I'd like to go to the smallest size that I can possibly use. And what we do if it's fit too big is you can actually open these up and take links out. And I'm going to show you how to do this in just a second. But you can always remove links from the prong collar to shorten its size. To open and close the prong collar, you're simply going to take any 2 points and put it through the openings in another link. You have to squeeze a little bit, but once you get it through, it looks just like that. Okay? When I go to open it back up, I like to put my thumb on the back and just push it until those pop out. okay? And that gives me the open and close of the prong collar. Because they're fit nice and snug, you should have to open and close it to put it on or off the dog. It should not be large enough that it slips freely over the dog's head. If that's the case, if you're able to slip this over the dog's head, you've got it fit way too loose, and it's not gonna at all work the way you need it to. So again, very key, essential thing here is that the prong collar is fitted properly, up high on the dog's neck, and nice and snug. You don't want any slack in the prong collar, otherwise it will not distribute the pressure evenly around the dog's neck the way we want it to. This is Rascal. She's a pretty young dog, and she's had no training up until this point. You can see that by how much tension she's putting on the leash. What I want you to notice is that she just has a regular flat collar on right now, and so all the tension is on the front of her neck. She's putting quite a bit of that force on her trachea and on her larynx, and that's something that we want to change. And this is Shelby, also a dog with no training to begin with, and she's definitely a wild one on the leash.
Nice. These dogs make some interesting noises.
She is a little wild.
Still not as bad as me walking those two Rotties.
Nice.
Nice. At the same time.
In part 2 of this video, we will begin to work with these dogs on the prong collar. We will demonstrate how to introduce the collar in a gentle way and how to begin the process for leash walking.